the face of the person's thin fingers poked through the cutout, curling around the edge of the cross as it gripped the wood tightly. I was still sucking in a terrified breath when I heard a voice coming from the coffin. "Will you let me out?" Welcome, horror buffs, to your ultimate destination for a heavy dose of bone-chilling encounters that will make your heart race and skin crawl uncontrollably. Are you ready for an intense rush of fear and thrill like never before? Then let's dive straight into the stories. The story was posted by Vera Stahl on r/nosleep. They keep putting me in a coffin. It first happened when I was 17. It was summer break. Most of my friends were gone out of town, and I was bored and home alone. I'd spent the last several days alternating between grinding in an MMO I was playing and reading weird stuff on the internet, urban legends, creepypastas, and wikis about cursed games. When I came up with my game, well, I'm not claiming it's original. There are plenty of cursed games and stories about mirrors, as I'm sure you know. You see something you shouldn't in the reflection, or you use it to summon something like Bloody Mary. Standard stuff. And my version wasn't original or complex. It all just started from me staring at the mirror, hanging on my closet door and thinking about how I could see the door to my bedroom in it. About how creepy it would be if the door opened in the mirror, but not in the real world. Again, basic bitch stuff. I had been close to falling asleep when the idea occurred to me, and something about it woke me up a bit. I actually sat watching the reflection of my bedroom door for a good minute, as though me having the thought was going to somehow make the door move on its own. Of course, nothing happened. I almost just laid back down and went to sleep, but something stopped me. A thought occurred to me that seemed silly, but was somehow still compelling. What if I could open the door in the mirror without opening my own? The illogic of it should have deterred me. How would I even try to do that? Go to the mirror and try to touch the doorknob there? But no, that wasn't the way. Without questioning it, I knew that wasn't the way. Instead, I got up and walked to my bedroom door, moving backwards and only looking at the door in the mirror, never in real life, focusing only on that mirror door, on touching and opening that mirror door. I reached back awkwardly, fumbling in the air for a second before my hand closed on the cool metal of the doorknob. I resisted the urge to look at the door as I twisted it, and in the reflection, I saw it open. I took my hand off the knob and then looked behind me. The door was standing open. It occurred to me then that the whole thing was stupid. Obviously, the door would be open if I'd turned the knob in my world. It being open proved nothing other than I was a giant goober. I wanted to laugh at myself, but I couldn't. Because something was different out there, wasn't it? I should be alone in the house, and it had gotten late enough that the hallway should have been totally dark. I hadn't turned on any lights when I got home from school that afternoon, and my parents shouldn't be home for another hour or two. And yet, I could see a glow from the stairwell at the end of the hall. The light on the wall coming up the stairs was lit, and maybe the one in the hall down by the front door. I swallowed. Had they come home early? My mouth opened to call out, but some whisper in the back of my skull stopped me. No, I needed to be careful. Something wasn't right. I took a few steps back to grab my phone off the bed, keeping my eyes trained on the open door as I picked it up and stuffed it in my pocket. Usually I'd have felt stupid being as spooked as I was, but the thought didn't even occur to me. Instead, I felt my breath tremble slightly as I stepped to the door again, and after taking a look out into the gloomy hall, stepped through it. Nothing seemed that strange at first, at least not other than the lights and the stale taste of the air. Walking slowly and quietly, I moved to the stairs as I strained to hear any signs of movement below. All I needed was to hear my mom on the phone or my dad turning on the TV, and everything would be fine. Instead, I heard nothing, and after standing there listening for over a minute, I forced myself to head down the stairs. Every creak made me wince as I went down. I felt like an intruder in my own house, and the fear of being noticed or caught was powerful, even though I didn't understand why. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, I felt a flare of rebellious anger at my fear. This was all so stupid. Nothing was different, I just didn't notice the lights were on, and I'm just scaring myself like some kind of fucking what was. There was a coffin in the middle of the living room. I only had a vague impression of the room overall, as my eyes were glued to the pale wood coffin laying in the middle of the room on what looked like the rug my mom had gotten years ago in South America. It wasn't a modern coffin, with a curved, heavy lid that swung on a hinge and divided halfway up. Instead, it reminded me more of something you might see in an old photograph or a period movie, a white pine box narrower at the feet than the shoulders, fitted with a lid that had a cutout of a cross so you could see the face of the person in's. Thin fingers poked through the cutout, curling around the edge of the cross as it gripped the wood tightly. I was still sucking in a terrified breath when I heard a voice coming from the coffin. "Will you let me out?" There was nothing menacing or sinister about the voice itself. It sounded like a young guy who was scared. I could sympathize. Still, something struck me as strange about the voice beyond the circumstances, and I couldn't figure out what it was. As I was still deciding what to do, it spoke again as the fingers waggled out of the coffin's cutout. "Please? They keep putting me in a coffin, but I don't want to be in here. I can tell you're different. Please help me." Heart pounding, I took a couple of steps closer. What was this? This couldn't be my house, right? I'd gone through the living room when I got home, and there was no way someone had snuck in a coffin without me hearing them either punching in the unlock code to get in or moving in something so big. But what was the alternative? That I'd managed to open a door into some mirror world? "We don't have much time. You have to hurry." There was a thread of fear and desperation in the voice from the start, but it was stronger now. It jolted me a few steps closer, but I still hesitated. What if this was a trap? I should just run back upstairs and try to get back into my bedroom, my house, my world. I peered into the dark cross, but all I could make out were forearms and hands pushing out of the darkness. It was a risk, but I could just open it really quick and then go back. Besides, if just returning to the room didn't work, this might be my only friend and guide on how to escape this place. And there was just something in his voice. I couldn't just leave him like this. Glancing around first to make sure I saw no one else in the room or creeping up behind, I bent down and yanked on the lid of the coffin. It came off with a protesting squeal, but I remember thinking that it hadn't been so hard to get off that he shouldn't have been able to push it out of the way. But then all thought flooded out of me as I looked down at the person inside of the coffin. It was me. What? My mirror twin was already pulling himself out of the coffin and getting to his feet. Turning, he gave me a smile. "Thanks, buddy. I couldn't have done it on my own." Taking a few steps back, I just kept staring at him. "You're... me." He snorted. "Kind of. Sorta. More like you're a dim reflection of me, but I understand how you'd see it." I felt myself starting to tremble, and it was in my voice when I spoke next. I want to go home now. Please." My twin looked at me for a moment before breaking into a grin. "Sure, I understand that too. No problem. I can take you to where you can cross back over." I glanced out at the stairs leading back up. I thought maybe I could just go back the way I came. I shot him a hopeful look. Would that work? He shook his head with a frown. "Afraid not. Each door can only be opened one way, but I know where another one is nearby. It'll take you back." Stomach in knots, I weighed my options. He could be lying, and just because he looked like me, it didn't mean I could trust him or knew what he really was. On the other hand, I had helped him, and he clearly wasn't as surprised to see me as I was him, so he likely knew more about what was happening. Maybe he really was trying to return the favor. Taking a deep breath, I shook my head. "I need to try upstairs first. I'm not saying I don't trust you, but this is all crazy. And if it has a chance of working, like me doing the opposite of what I did to get here, then I should try before I go with you. A shadow passed over his face. Look, my family will be back any minute, and once they see you, there's no chance that you're going anywhere. I shuddered slightly. What would they do? He shook his head. Nothing you'd like. He reached out and grabbed my arm. Neither of us can get caught again, so you go if you want, but I can't wait for you to try out something I know doesn't work. My mirror twin sighed. Believe me, if it did, I'd have left a long time ago. I was about to agree to go with him when I paused. Wait, if everything you're saying is true, why didn't you use the escape you're taking me to a long time ago? The other boy grimaced and said nothing for a moment. When he did speak, his voice was soft but tight with tension and anger. Because I couldn't leave until you came over. Now, instead of letting me help you and get us both out, you're wasting time. You either go with me now, or you're on your own. Turning my arm loose, he started walking toward the front door, and in a second, my options were going to be down to one, whether I chose or not. Swallowing, I forced myself to make a decision. Wait, okay, I'm coming. It was dark in the front yard as we left the house, and I saw no signs of people or traffic when I glanced down the road in either direction. We lived in a quiet neighborhood, but it was never this still except in the middle of the night. My mirror twin turned and grunted at me. Stay with me. We're going to go along the main road, but stick to the shadows. If you see a person or a car, you fucking hide. If anyone sees us together, they'll know what's up. Okay, where are we going? He was already moving across the yard, and he just whispered back as he kept moving. Do you have a shopping center down across the highway? I thought for a second. Yeah, I don't go there, but yeah, it's been there for years. Good, that's where we're going. Over here there's a clothing store with a changing room door that will work. I wanted to ask more questions, but we were moving quickly and I was afraid of calling attention to us or distracting him. We went to the end of our street, turned left, and then curved around to the entrance to the subdivision before going left again. When I was little, the road between there and the highway had been mostly undeveloped, but that had changed over time. By the time I went through the mirror door, there were gas stations and a couple of shops between the neighborhood and the highway. And it was the same here, brightly lit spots in the night that held cars and people. I was about to ask how he wanted to get past that part of the road when I saw a pair of headlights coming. Get down! Hide! He hissed the words as he turned and waved me toward the steep ditch next to us. Glancing back up, I saw the headlights were getting closer. Blood pounding, I started sliding down the ditch into the uncut grass and scrub bushes that covered this patch of still undeveloped land. I kept scrabbling down a few more feet until I reached the bottom, turning to lay on my belly as I looked back up in the direction of the road. My twin hadn't followed me down, but maybe that was part of the plan. It may only be a problem if someone saw two of us. And he was walking in front, so they may have already seen him. If he suddenly dived off the road, it would look suspicious. Hoping I was right, I strained for any sight or sound. There was talking up there. Had the car stopped to talk to him? I couldn't tell what was being said, but it was close enough that one of the voices had to be him. I started creeping up the bank again, trying to be quiet while getting closer so I could hear better. I heard a car door shut and then the sound of the motor as it started to drive away. I waited about a minute before whispering up the hill to my other. Is it okay? Can I come up now? There was no response. I laid there in the dark for another few seconds, terrified and unsure of what to do. Either he was up there, or he wasn't. Maybe whoever it was took him somewhere. None of it changed the fact that I had to get out of this place before it was too late. Grunting, I crawled up the rest of the embankment and glanced around at the road. No signs of headlights, but no signs of my mirror twin either. Getting to my feet, I tried to decide which way to go. I could head to the shopping center, but I didn't know which store or door he was talking about, not really. It was possible he was still headed there, but why did he leave without me, if that was the case? And if he was trying to betray me, how could I trust anything he'd said? Fuck me. I don't know what to do. An unfamiliar voice spoke from the nearby darkness. I know what I'd do if I were you. I jumped and looked around. In the backlight from the gas station, I could now see the shadowy silhouettes of two people standing a few feet away. How had I missed them before? Not knowing what else to do, I decided to try and seem normal. Maybe if I sounded calm, they'd think I was the other me. Oh hey, what do you think I should do? One of the shadow people started laughing while the other took a step forward. I'd fucking run. My lungs burned as I cut across a black lawn and sprinted down this mirror version of my street. The two of them, a man and woman I didn't recognize, were still running behind me, but I had gained some distance as we went. I knew where I was headed because I only had one choice left. Running up the steps to what looked like my front door, I punched in the lock code. 1573. The lock buzzed with complaint at the wrong code. What the fuck? Maybe I did it too fast. 1573. A double buzz. One more and I'd be locked out for a minute. I glanced back. They were less than 50 yards away. Turning back, I had a thought and punched the numbers with a trembling finger. The door chirped and unlocked, and gasping I shot through before slamming and locking it behind me. Turning back, I started to head up the stairs when I saw motion out of the corner of my eye. Two things that looked like my parents were looking at me from the living room. My mother's face split into a toothy grin as the father thing beckoned to me. In his other hand, he held the lid to the coffin. Come on in here. Come here and get in. I took the stairs two at a time as I ran up to my room, opened the door, and slammed it shut behind me. I wanted to lock it, barricade myself inside, but some hard instinct inside me told me that was stupid. If I panicked, I'd be trapped here. I had to be calm and smart and do what I fucking knew was the answer in the first place. I stepped away from the door and found it in the mirror across the room. Reaching back without turning, I felt for and found the knob. I could hear them running up the stairs now, and if I was wrong, I would just be giving myself to them. Fuck, fuck, fuck. No. I had to trust myself and do it before it was too late. I turned the knob and opened the door, and when I looked out in the hallway, nothing was there. I knew I'd made it back right away, and I was right. Everything was normal again, and when my parents came home a few minutes later, I scared them to death by crying and hugging them for several minutes before I made some excuse about just loving them and worrying about them dying someday. It may be that they would have pushed further on how strange I was acting, but that night our house caught on fire. We all got out in time, but it was a near thing. My father still tells the story of how his teenage son had been so sleepy when the fire broke out that I took the time to grab the silliest thing from my room. The mirror that hung on my closet door. I'd known as soon as I'd gone back to my bedroom in that other place to escape. The door had been shut, and I hadn't shut it when I'd first gone down. It could have been the parent things or something else that did it, but I knew better. My mirror twin had come across after tricking me away from the house. I put the mirror in storage and waited. My parents hadn't known why someone would set fire to our house, but I did. And for years I stayed on edge, expecting him to come back, trying to kill me or use me some way again. But when it never happened, I started to relax a little. I didn't doubt that any of it had happened, and I felt sure he was out in the world somewhere. But so long as he didn't bother me, why did I care? Then, when I was 24, I woke up in a coffin. I couldn't say for sure if it was the same coffin as before, but it was built the same. I woke up in darkness, peering out of a cross-shaped portal at the popcorn ceiling of what I found out was my apartment's living room. The stale smell of wood corkscrewed into my nostrils as I began to take panicked breaths. and I immediately began pushing against the lid to get it off. It didn't budge. Letting out a small, whining scream, I shoved harder, and after a moment's hesitation, the lid shifted and then came free, clattering to the floor as I leapt out of the coffin and looked around the room. I was alone, at least so far as I could tell. I searched the apartment and then the grounds of the complex for some sign of my mirror twin, or others from that world, but there was no trace. When I got the management to show me the security cameras for that night outside my apartment because of a break-in attempt, there was nothing from the time I came home from work until I stormed out at 5 in the morning, stalking around like a crazy person with a kitchen knife. Strange as it was, I never seriously thought it was him behind it. My intuition about the whole thing maybe, telling me this was the others, trying to take something back. That morning, I borrowed a friend's truck, took the coffin out into the woods, and burned it. After that, I never let my guard down again, but it didn't matter. Nothing happened, at least until it did. 7 years later, when I was 31, I woke up in a coffin again. This time it took me nearly 2 hours of banging and screaming and pushing to get out. There were no nails or anything else keeping it closed, but there was still some terrible gravity pushing down from the other side. I fractured my wrist, tore a ligament, and pissed myself while I was in that fucking box, and I still think me getting the lid off was more through force of will than any physical strength I applied. Either way, I knew two things. It would come again when I was 38, and next time, I wouldn't be able to escape. It seemed really obvious what I needed to do then. This was all happening because my mirror twin had escaped into this world. And if I was going to stop it, before I had to take his place, I had made him go back. So, I spent the next 5 years getting ready. Searching for him was a big part of it, of course. Internet searches, hiring private detectives to find my long-lost brother, even following supposed hunches that were just desperate wastes of time. I had no insight into who he was or what he was doing. If he was even human, he certainly wasn't me, and whatever my successful guesses, I had no real idea how any of this worked or how to fix it. Facing that hard truth is what gave me my second focus these past few years. Looking for scraps of truth and understanding. Accounts of doppelgangers or mirror worlds, rituals or rules for stopping them. Most of it was fiction or insanity, of course, but not all of it. I had to rely on my gut and my growing understanding of how things fit together to separate the good from the bad. But over time, I came to trust what I'd learned, even if it was partly because I had no other choice. Still, I could feel the clock ticking down, and the longer I went without finding my mirror self, the more I worried about waking up in a coffin and a world I couldn't escape. And then, after thousands of dollars and almost 6 years of looking, one of the detectives I'd hired got a hit. A blog article about a man who was questioned by state police in the Midwest the week before. He had apparently become a person of interest in a series of murders that had happened in Oklahoma, Texas, and Ohio over the last 10 years, though he was released less than 24 hours after being brought in for questioning. At the end of the article, there was a picture of the man walking out into the OSBA parking lot. It was me. Or rather, it was you. I finally found you, you piece of shit. You fucking murderer. I should have done this sooner. Before you hurt those poor women. Before you did, God knows what else. But I have you now, motherfucker. Yeah, you recognize the mirror? I thought you did. Don't worry about the piece that's missing. I have it right here. It's part of this. You see, I thought for a long time I'd have to do the same thing as before. Force you to open a door in the mirror and push you through to them so you can't hurt anyone else and they leave me alone. Unfortunately, I was wrong. That way only works if the person opening the door wants to go through. But like I said, I've learned things. like that there are other doors and other ways of opening them. Leave from me. Leave from me. You are banished by hand and hate. Leave from me. Leave from me. By this sacrifice you meet your fate. Leave from me. Leave from me. Blood is truth, and knives are trust. I dug the shard of broken mirror into his neck and raked it across, making sure we could both see him bound in the propped-up coffin as I yanked it free, and blood began to pour down his chest. For there is only one of us. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more thrilling horror stories like these. Also, share your thoughts on the story in the comment section below. If you want me to feature your own story on this channel, you are most welcome. Send your story to the email provided in the description below.